So a fair few years ago, my nanny opened up to me over the dinner table, probably when I had my second, third or fourth meal of the night, and she, for the first time, talked about the period poverty she experienced as a child and a teenager, how much shame and guilt and unknown certainty was involved with her menstruation. Life stops when your period starts in hardship. She moved from Ireland in her 20s and experienced destructive prejudice due to her migrancy, but also awareness of her period products and the availability of them. This is a personal and tragic struggle. Every day of every hour in the UK, people are experiencing period poverty. But this isn't a history lesson. This isn't a family lesson from ourselves. This is relevant today, and it shouldn't be happening. Period poverty robs people of their dignity, pride, and self-esteem and replaces it with guilt, shame, and embarrassment. Period poverty is not a weight for one individual to bear, but an injustice for us all to change. So, my name's Fiona Munnelly, and I created Periods in Poverty 2.5 years ago. We have donation points, which you've seen just outside. We collect, audit and donate to people in hardship, such as people living in chaos after domestic violence, homeless people, new mothers in hostels, low-income families, migrants and refugees. The story of my startup was just that I was studying occupational therapy, and I thought, oh, we'll have a bin in the library, simple. And then I went and asked the librarians, and it was a definite no from them, and I thought, just do it anyway. I think it's really powerful what myself and my volunteers do, but it should not be a requirement of emotional labour for people to receive the items. We shouldn't be relied upon of activists like ourselves. No matter how many donations we receive, period poverty is still going to be an issue. The need will always be there. We need to eradicate period poverty by first looking at ourselves, looking at what period poverty is, collective action, and the role the government plays. So first, what can I do? Well, first off, let's unpack what period poverty really is. It's a simple idea, although powerful. People deserve access to essential products. If it's so simple, why isn't it not being rectified? Period poverty, in my opinion, is a microcosm of different oppressions. There's roots in colonialism and capitalism. It involves many different oppressions, such as ableism, classism, racism, sexism, and transphobia. Capitalism discounts experience and prioritises wealth and profit. Colonialism glorifies the people that have and punishes the people that have not. My incredible lecturer, Tina Clouston, uses the definition of emotional kindness to be empathy, respect, and dignity. I think we all need to have accountability and integrity and radically support equality for all. We need to advocate for the people who are unable to. We must stand and be accounted for against the austerity climate. We must use our education and our privilege to vouch for all. So, collective action. So, for example, my fellow activists in Rhondda and in Bridgend have made a campaign which gives sanitary products to children, school children. This is a great move. This goes to show that we are unable to stand any longer for people that menstruate in hardship. It's not one singular issue, it's not the child's issue, and we will not stand for this silent side of poverty no longer. Who experiences period poverty? So who do you picture? Do you picture someone like me? Someone like my nanny? Someone like yourself? Yes, we are all at risk of hardship. We're all at risk of poverty. But there's certain intersections of our community that are higher risk, such as people with various gender expressions, people with various races, ethnicities, disabled people, people that have chronic illnesses, people within larger bodies, children, and people within the homeless community. Huge cuts to the welfare and benefit state have had a huge demand on people using emergency services such as hostels and food banks. There are high levels of destitution within our current climate, and it's shocking that we are meant to be the 7th wealthiest country in the world. I urge you all to reject stereotyping and prejudice when we think about someone who is experiencing period poverty. We need to look at ourselves first and understand our internalised prejudice and stereotyping towards people that may not look like us. We need to analyse our language that we use, our justifications and our decisions when talking about specific issues like period poverty. Until we are all free, none of us are free, and we all have a duty in this to rectify this horrific situation that's occurring every hour. Regularly, I get the suggestion that the solution of period poverty is like eco-menstruation wear, and that is not the solution in my mind, and I do not agree with that. If we think about it sort of as a big issue, I think dignity and choice are the main components in this. I do not believe making people use certain types of products to be the rectification of this problem. We all have our different preferences and what works best with our body. And why are people in hardship not allowed this privilege? You know, there's people with some people with disabilities, like hand mobility, for example, that are unable to negotiate the reusable items. There's people within homeless communities that are unable to obtain the sanitation needs of the reusable product. But ultimately, it's decision and choice that's paramount in this. It's the dignity of the person. So, what does a better situation look like, specifically in the UK? So, obviously, access to much essential needed items. People shouldn't have to go through emotional labour or shame when asking for these items. They need to be able to manage their menstruation in a safe environment. We need everyone to speak up on this. I once did a talk a couple of years ago of 600 people, and they voted to support the campaign of Periods in Poverty. And what really stuck with me was I had unanimous people voting to support the campaign, which was great. But I had like 2 or 3 men that were just like, I abstain from the vote. I abstain. This is a woman's issue, and I just don't agree with it. And I think it's all of our issue. If we're all like abstaining from votes or categorising it and detaching yourself away from the problem, then we might all just be at risk of it. I think we need to all agree and all speak up on this matter. So what looks like a better situation? Frontline workers need to be able to discuss this issue with people without their own internalised prejudices or without embarrassment. Finally, as we're aware, periods in poverty and period poverty is getting on the agenda on the political side. We must demand that change will occur on every level that is sustainable and promotes health and well-being for everyone. I am angry and ashamed that we live in a country that perpetuates period poverty. My nanny's silence and shame is actually a public health issue. Myself and many other people see firsthand within Cardiff that the widening gap between health and non-wealthy, the wealthy and non-wealthy, benefit sanctions, rising cost of living and lower wages means that people are unable to pay vital bills like rent, unable to pay for water, unable to pay for food. So where does your menstruation products come from? Money did not create the first hospitals or give milk to school children. The beliefs and the behaviours of ourselves did. We are at the beginning steps. We're beginning to do research. We're beginning to see that period poverty is happening everywhere. But we need to create practical policy with health and well-being in mind. Now, I get questions like, did the government create period poverty? And whether it be their intention or not, what's happening today is that the disenfranchised are having more struggle onto their daily struggles as it is, and the government, whether it be intentional or not, are not listening to it. So what is my call for action or my war cry? Yourselves and me, we need to lobby the government. We need to tell MPs and political members that we will not stand for this anymore. We demand evidence-based policy making which promotes health and well-being for all of us. We all need to take into account of our own justifications, decision-making and language we use around poverty. We need to work on ourselves so it's not projected on other people. We need to be inclusive of all, so not to adhere to colonialist and capitalist scripts that have no longer served us. We demand to live in a country that provides basic essentials for all. Thank you.